Gentlemen, welcome back. We are heading into week 8. Just when you think you have this year figured out, does a total 180 on you yet again. More injuries and some upsets. One team that I'm very, very high on is starting to come into full form. And it's almost as if, we always at around this time start to separate the contenders from the pretenders, but even the guys that are contending are getting hit with injury bugs. The pretenders are they are who we thought they were in a way. It's almost interesting to a point where I feel like 1 week, at least half of the league takes a hit, the other starts to kind of climb up. It is an absolute mess of a season. But in a way, it makes it a little bit more enjoyable because now I think you're starting to see management come into play. Which managers are making the right moves, who's doing some low risk maneuvers, who's being risky in that. And I got a big surprise for you guys today that I want to kind of showcase because I've been itching to kind of showcase this, especially in matchups when I kind of predict and whatnot. So you're going to get a little bit of a sample of that today, but let's recap week number 7. I know I haven't done recaps, can't even talk recaps in a while, but so first and foremost, we had David Krier taking on Harsh, and Harsh just laid the hammer down. You need to start buying into this team. This is a team that I was very high on. I'm not going to lie to you. I loved it after the draft. Well, I liked it after the draft, but the running backs were a concern. And right at week 1, he found his holes. He was done, right? Like once Marlon Mack went down, you knew that hole was going to be solidified. James Robinson becoming an absolute stud and a half. And now the receivers are all healthy together. I know you lost Deebo Samuel. So for the time being, I guess the last flex is played by matchup alone. So congratulations on, just an incredible victory. David Krier has lost, I believe it's 2 or 3 straight. And also the loss of Kenyon Drake. Now, take it for what it is. I think Kenyon Drake, we don't know the severity. I just think he's going to be out for a while. Whenever I see high ankle sprain, not a good look. Kenyon Drake, though, I think was matchup dependent. If the Cardinals were going to be up in games against a really crappy team, he was going to do well. If it was going to be neutral or pass from behind type of game, it was more a script for Chase Edmonds. Now Chase Edmonds kind of gets the driver's seat in a way, if you will. So vintage 1 going, if I'm not mistaken, 4-3, really good. And what appears to be a low-key competitive division. We have 2 divisions that are kind of competitive. This one, man, every time I watch the 1 o'clock games, man, I always feel like Allen is going to break off of the schneid, and I feel like once 4 o'clock happens, man, he just can't get the job done. Patrick has defied the odds, man. I got to give this kid some props. He just finds ways to win. We know it's not like the greatest team in the world, but he won without Lamar Jackson. Joe Burrow with the spot start of the year. I know everybody was kind of criticizing him. You got Lamar Jackson while you got Joe Burrow. I guess he saved him for this matchup. So, man, Allen, I really thought you had it on this one, man. But thing that's kind of trending in the wrong direction for Allen, Christian McCaffrey starting to come back in, which means Mike Davis value is going to plummet, which being the manager that Allen is, you haven't had Michael Thomas yet. I would expect Antonio Gibson and DeAndre Swift to be leading the backfield this week coming up. That's just my guess. Okay, I don't know what happened here. I really don't know. And this was a shocker. Light roast. Say it again. Light roast. Not a great performance, but biggest takeaway here is what the hell happened to Johnny's team. I mean, after putting up 145, I guess we calmed down. And that's what it's weird because I think we always talk about this. When a team has an outburst of a week, the next week they calm down. I did not expect it to be an 80-point calm down week. Now, granted, Johnny, I did not like a lot of your guys. I know Thielen was out, and I know the Beckham injury. But let me be clear with something. I know you're upset about Beckham. I really don't think it changes my stance on your team at all. I think Beckham was a boom or bust wide receiver 3. It just that connection wasn't going to work out in Cleveland. David is probably one of the most surprising teams. Without Christian McCaffrey, he's had a winning record without him, and he's been 500 with him. So interesting stuff. And then there was a trade that was also made. A lot of blowouts here, man. This was, I don't know if this is an outlier week. It could be for some teams, one included. But let's talk about Rob Coffey laying down 143 against Alex. Alex still trying to find any prayer he can. There's some interesting pieces on this roster, but with Dallas being in tank mode now and Nick Chubb being hurt, Josh Jacobs not finding the end zone, I can't remember, 2 weeks now, I think. Just Jacobs has just been a product of bad matchups, in my personal opinion. Didn't have your hard hitters out. Mike Williams kind of was the only Charger, I think, who really didn't do much. All these random other Chargers score, man. It's a shame, man. You hate to see it. But Rob Coffey, and a sharp week for Mr. Coffey with the Deontay Johnson swerve on Mr. Paul. So we'll see if that continues. We have to see what the running back situation is going to look like for Coffeyville this week after shipping out Damian Harris, after acquiring Phillip Lindsay, who's in the concussion protocol, and Miles Sanders, I would guess, is sitting out, which means that you might be calling somebody up from the street. I didn't even look at your team yet. Okay, let's get to this game because I swear, my God, B Magic, if you're listening to me right now, Andre, this is the first loss he's ever had in a decimal deciding matchup. Swear to God, I am not BSing you right now. This kid is Monday Night Money. That's what I'm calling him. I don't want to admit that, but it is what it is. So this was what I like to call the quote unquote pretenders matchup because a lot of people are not buying these teams, myself included. I think B Magic is having a depth issue, and on Mr. Jones finally takes a loss. It was kind of overdue. I really thought he was going to pull it out. Oh, damn, man. Wow. That's all I have to say for this. Mr. Jones, I think the one thing that we got to kind of talk about is what's going on with these running backs, what's going on with these receivers. It's time starting to tick away. That's the biggest question that we gotta kind of have to ask ourselves in this one. And then we have to say this for the last one, probably the upset of the year. And no, I'm not just saying that because it was my team. Wow. I don't know what to tell you. And it's so funny too, because this happens with my running backs still. Well, I gotta say, my running backs combined for 14 points. So that was a win for me. I haven't had that in God knows how long. So Paul, good matchup. A lot of things broke right for me, man, including that last-minute trade. Wow. Hell of a game up until that night, man. And Tyler Lockett, you know how I feel about my baby. So, my, oh my, what fireworks in this one. Now, what you are going to see before I get into the matchups is something I've been meaning to show you guys, and I'm going to make this exclusively for the matchup of the week. It is Pro Football Focus's wide receiver versus cornerback matchup chart. I want to share it, not for everybody, because I don't want everybody to get too much information and have an advantage, but I will be using the chart to showcase for the matchup of the week. That's coming up in the next segment. So if you have an iPhone, a desktop, laptop, whatever, I would highly suggest that you start looking at it instead of like listening to me. If you're in the matchup of the week this week, definitely use a visual device to kind of look at it instead of listening to me. You cannot get this if you are not a member. So obviously, me being a football fanatic, I use this more for DFS and research like that and prop bets. So yeah, it's probably one of the best. I know a lot of sites have their own. I always trust PFF for grades and coverages and all this other stuff. I love talking about it. So let me know what you guys think. Definitely, I'll appreciate the feedback. All right, guys. So if you're currently listening to me right now, this is the fantasy football wide receiver versus cornerback matchup chart. There's a lot to go through. It's really cool. I use this a lot. This is content that I just want to show you guys. So if you're taking the time to listen to this, appreciate it. So I go to the key, and pretty much what you do is based on the matchups. They do pretty much freaking everything. It's awesome. So the matchup charts, you have the H, which is height, inches, weight, speed. Over here, which is the combine 40 time in seconds. Now, the only thing that can be misleading about the speed in the combine time is guys like Larry Fitzgerald, Julio Jones, like those older veterans, that time is not updated. So you got to kind of scale back a little bit your expectations if they're a lot older. Okay. RT, number of routes run. L, percentage wise, is lined up on the left. So, for example, left wide receiver against left cornerback. S, slot percentage, how many times they line up in the slot. Right, R, percentage, how many times they line up on the right. I is number of routes the tight end that's lined up on the inline. W is number of routes that the tight end is lined up when he's split out wide, which is interesting because once you start to see this and that percentage goes up, that means that this tight end is a mismatch kind of guy, like guys like Darren Waller. You know, those are the guys that you might expect to line up wide. BI is the percentage of snaps stayed into block. This is more used for the tight ends more than the wide receivers. Then we have TG/RT, which means on a cornerback, how many times when the routes are run, how many times do they get targeted near their area of their field? Fantasy points given up per route. C is catch percentage. So when they're targeted, how many catches have they given up? And I'll show you that. Yards per route run. You know, how many yards per route run have they given up? Because there might be guys that just give up the little easy stuff in front of them, which is what you're supposed to do if you're a cornerback. Yards per route covered. PFF overall grade, I'm not really going to go that. That's more for real life expectations because you have guys even like David Moore. It's weird. So it's like guys who catch the amount of targets that are thrown to them have a higher grade. But if David Moore only has like 15 targets on the year, he's going to score pretty high. So I don't really look at that. Matchup advantage, and which I'll dictate. So, for example, I'll go through this for you guys. When you go down here, offense will be on the left side, defense will be on the right. So, example right here, they always start in alphabetical order. So it's Atlanta since Arizona's on a bye. So it's Julio Jones. So you can pretty much click anything that you want to know. This is very good to distinguish what kind of cornerbacks are, shadowing, what kind of receivers, do they only line up on one side of the field? So you have number of routes that are run, left, slot, right. So you can kind of filter it in just by that. And I'll show you what that means. So how do I distinguish this, right? So let's say I wanted to filter in any of these receivers, who lines up on the left side of the field the most. So in this case, it would be Miles Boykin would be number one, and A.J. Brown lining up to the left. So what that pretty much tells me, if that number of percentage is a little bit higher, it pretty much tells me that most likely they are using this guy in a permanent spot. They like to run their routes better on a certain side, and that's the same thing with cornerbacks. They can only cover on a certain side of the field. If the number is also higher than expected, it also means that there's a permanent slot guy on the team, or there's another guy that they just, are very basic and they line him up on the right. But for example, like Miles Boykin, let's not talk about him because nobody has him. AJ Brown, right? So he's obviously fantasy relevant, 64%, but then I can look over here, 13% of the slot, 23% in the right, which means that he is kind of moved around in different areas of the field, which is pretty good. So I kind of use this, and there are certain guys obviously who line up everywhere else. But a guy who might line up all over the field, like if you look down here to Kenny Golladay, 50 on the left, 20 in the slot, 30 in the right side of the field. These are guys that are, I like to say, most of the time, guys you want to buy into because they can create mismatches anywhere on the field and avoid quote unquote shadow coverage type of guys. Then when we go to slot percentage, right? This shouldn't surprise anybody, right? These permanent slot guys like Isaiah Ford, Anthony Miller, CeeDee Lamb, Cole Beasley, Tyler Boyd, like these numbers are expected to be higher. Like when this is like confirms our, suspicions. We know which guys are slot receivers. We know which guys are going to stay in the slot. So that's not that bad. And then you go to the right percentage of the time, which correlates well with Corey Davis. His right percentage is going to be high because A.J. Brown's on the left was pretty high. But you see that they still move these guys all over the field. Adam Thielen was interesting. This is why when I was down on him, he was good as a slot receiver with Diggs. Now he's having to line up on the right a lot more, but they don't ignore him anywhere else on the field. So that's something that I wanted to talk about. I use this route advantage to see which guys are kind of buy lows. So who's run the most routes in the league? This confirms which teams trail from behind. Dallas, Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper are up there. Stephon Diggs is surprise. But it's either, when I look at the number of routes run, it's either teams passing attack guys that are on shitty teams because they're from behind, or legit alpha wide receivers that are running the most routes in the league. So, this shouldn't confirm suspicions at all. But what I like to do is, it helps me identify buy lows. Like if I keep scrolling down the list, I say, this is pretty interesting. Maybe I should start buying this guy because his routes are starting to get up there. Targets per route run. These are, when they filter in percentage wise, Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, commanding most of the target share on their teams, right? Catch percentage. This is, for obvious reasons, misleading, because what this means is, a guy like Marquez Callaway only really played in one game, so his catch percentage is going to be high. So I completely avoid that. But if you look down here, guys like Devontae Adams, Tyler Boyd, if they get targeted because they get those intermediate routes, which are more easier. Now I want, the one thing that is really interesting is cornerbacks. So I'm going to go to there. Let me just filter this by team back so I know. There we go. So when I scroll down, this is good for defensive versus cornerback matchups. The only thing that I wish this did, which it does not do, is when the cornerback plays more zone to man, because zone is going to allow guys to catch everything underneath those intermediate routes, whereas man, it's a test of skill. This is more based on man, right? So let's go, and we talked about speed. So let's now talk about, which cornerbacks line up on, the right side, or how many cornerbacks have had the most routes thrown at them. So if I click that, how many routes have they guarded? It's not how many routes were thrown at them. That's insane. So how many routes have they defended? So these line up pretty good, right? So it's these guys who don't come off the field very often, these elite coverage corner guys, Denzel Ward, Jalen Ramsey, Kyle Fuller, Jalen Johnson, Shaquille Griffin, Carlton Davis. Also, those numbers should be up, okay, if they are teams that are playing with a lead, right? Bradbury is interesting because I think he either A, doesn't come off the field, or the defense is just on the always on, right? So now here we go, pre-snap wise. How many times do they line up on the left side of the field? What this means is, if you're worried about a guy who's, shadowing per se, if their number is high on one side of the field, like Harrison Hand and AJ Boye, this means that they are not shadowing at all. This means they stay on one spot of the field. So, for example, you can see like Joe Hayden would be a guy maybe we were worried about in the past. But the fact that his number is so high on the left side of the field, he's not a shadow coverage type of guy. Slot, they're specialist guys, right? So guys like Buster Screen, Teron Johnson, these guys are specifically only used for the slot corners. In slot corners, you'll see that there's a lot of guys that are in there because that's the only position that they can play. Same with the left side of the field. If you see a corner that's lined up on the right side of the field, they're not coverage kind of shadow guys that'll shadow in coverage. So that's what I use. The other thing is, let's look at this targets per route. When a route is, which this means is when a route is in their direction, how many times do they get targeted? And this confirms our suspicions for the most part. It's teams that we like to pick on, like Kendall Sheffield has been targeted 25% of the time when a route is near in his direction. Jonathan Jones, Cam Dantzler, all these cornerbacks that when you look at that matchup chart, you're just like, yes, I get this team. Interesting one here is Marlon Humphrey, because he's a slot guy and he's really, really good. He's not having a down year, but I think with the Ravens playing from above a lot, a lot of underneath routes might be coming in his direction. So that is interesting. Catch percentage. How many times do they give up catch percentage, right, with routes in either direction? So Sean Murphy Bunting, I know Tampa's been good. He's been their only kind of like bad corner this year. So this means 91% of the time when the ball is thrown in his direction, it's going to be a catch. AJ Terrell, Christian Fulton, Nickel Roby Coleman, Troy Pride Jr., Teron Johnson, which Johnny knows all about very much, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Like, these are guys that we're attacking based on where they line up. Anyway, I will break down the matchup. If you are in the matchup of the week, you will get this matchup chart. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I know that was a little extra 10 minutes. So here we go. Man, oh man. This could be the funeral. So I'm going to pour one out for you. Now, being at 1-5, obviously not where you want to be. You obviously like to gamble, and it didn't pay off. But I, for one, Alan, am not throwing shade at you at all. I'm not calling you out for making a stupid decision. The only thing, in my personal opinion, Alan, the only thing that anybody can rag you on was way too risky of a reach with DJ Chark in the third round. That's about it. I, for one, am not ripping you because Michael Thomas, you haven't had your best player, and it's not even like he's been, I mean, he was hurt, but like there's some weird drama bullshit going on. Okay? This was just a weird circumstance for you. I know you always like the zero RB thing, and you had Mike Davis. Like, your thought process was right. The only issue was these guys didn't break out enough in time when you needed them to, which is a reason why zero RB is kind of a thing of the past. I know it was kind of trending up this year, but you just a whole bunch of crap that wasn't ideal happened to you. But you are now getting probably my favorite team in the whole league. I just said it. Harsh, I don't care what you talk about with this whole jinx bullshit. I know for a fact I picked you last week. So don't give me that. I think the only one that it really worked for at one point was Andre, and that curse was broken because I picked him against Krier, and he beat Krier. There is no curse. The only curse that is freaking legit is when you pick somebody to be the best team right after the draft, because you did that to me twice. But who knows? Let's see. Alan, I'll just flat out tell you, man, if Christian McCaffrey plays, it's going to be ugly for you, bro. I feel bad, dude. It's not like, you had Michael Thomas. If you had Michael Thomas and you were still 1-5, I'd say, like, dude, like, this is just not your week, not your year. But there's a lot that went wrong for you. Tua, again, the start against Ben Roethlisberger. Baltimore's got a good defense, but they're not as dominant as what we thought they were. But I don't like Ben in this matchup. Tua, this could either be one of those, wow, like, why did they start Tua moments, or this kid takes the league by storm. I just think it's a weird spot to have this kid come in against Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. Like, wow. For that being said, I'm actually going to call a split even draw. I don't have a good gut feeling on any of these guys. Robbie Anderson, Michael Thomas, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams. You already know how I feel about the Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams combo. However, Tyreek Hill, he still had 14 points? Wow. Dude, Tyreek Hill has had such a weird year because this is not what you drafted him to be. But in a way, I guess you'll take it. It's like he's so consistent, man. He's not blowing up. We have yet to see a Tyreek Hill explosion game, right? He hasn't hit over 20 points. It was always Tyreek Hill was 25 one week, 7 or 8 the next. Are you my question to you, Harsh, are you happy with his production? And I'm not saying this because I'm trying to buy him off of you. Knowing that Devontae Adams has such a high floor, I probably would expect Tyreek Hill explosion games more to be kind of personal. But I guess you'll take it as a consolation prize. It's like, he's consistent, but it's not exploding. And if I drafted Tyreek Hill, I would want some explosion games. That's just me personally. And I'll take the variance of like the 7 one week and the 28 the next. The thing that's interesting is if Michael Thomas plays, this becomes a very intriguing matchup because I think Robbie Anderson is fantastic, right? Like, this guy is him and DJ Moore, man, the 1A and 1B of this team now. I think defenses are clearly keying on Robbie a lot more, which is allowing DJ Moore to get open for obvious reasons. But Michael Thomas, I don't even know if he plays. So for that, I have to go Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill. Robbie Anderson on Thursday night will probably make Allen hyped up just a little bit because I do think that the Atlanta secondary, who knows what the game plan is, to be honest, but he'll be fine. Tyreek Hill against the Jets, this might be the game where he finally catches a long bomb. Devontae Adams against the Minnesota Vikings, take it for what it is. This is going to be another beast of a man matchup. Like, look at this. I understand you've only had Adams for a total of 4 games, and in 2 of those you weren't happy. 1, he got hurt. Guy's the best receiver in football, hands down. This guy is, you put him anywhere on the field, man. He is a stud. And he's going to go against Minnesota, who I think clearly is taking. I hear there's going to be a fire sale coming soon. Yeah, give me Devontae Adams and the harsh side of things. Mike Davis against Atlanta is a fantastic matchup, but you really need McCaffrey to be held out. DeAndre Swift against Indy. Look, you're going to get excited for Swift, and rightfully so. His snap percentage has gone up. He has double digits in all 3 of his last games, right? Snap percentage goes up. What I want to see is when this team falls from behind, is he still out there on passing situations? He was a little bit, but they didn't use him. And the thing that pissed me off on the last drive was that they had Kerryon Johnson in the 2-minute drill. If this is going to continue to be an annoying thing, DeAndre Swift at best is a low-end RB2, right? You're not going to get that ceiling that you hoped for him to be, like that high-end guy. Bottom line is this, 3-man committees, they kill people's values, right? I can deal with a 2-man committee. That's fine. 3-man, yeah, no thank you. But his snaps have steadily increased. He's now over 50% of the snaps for the first time in the season, and I expect that trend to continue. And I think, Alan, if Mike Davis plays, I'm actually going to take you because Jonathan Taylor against Detroit's a great matchup, but Zach Moss, I think, might have some harsh. I don't know what you're seeing. Maybe the Bills' offensive line is just not that good. I don't know what to tell you. Moss looked okay against the Jets, right? But he's clearly better than Singletary. He just needs, it's a matter of volume, right? Allen, I guess you forgot to bid on a tight end, so I can't call that. Waller's going to have a field day, Harsh. Get ready for it. Waller will have a field day, brother. I think this is a big Darren Waller game. Flex spots. Kenny Golladay and J.K. Dobbins. We're obviously dealing with some bye-week blues. A.J. Brown, Marquise Brown. A.J. Brown, again, is going to, prove to Harsh that he should buy his authentic jersey yet again. Marquise Brown, I don't have any hopes for. He looks like a buy low because he's running all these routes. He's getting all these air yards, but his quarterback sucks. So, Kenny Golladay. I don't want anything to do with the Detroit Lions. I think the only guy who got value in our draft for drafting Lions was Rob getting TJ Hawkinson in the 10th round. There's not enough, they're such a boring offense, bro. Galladay's not getting enough targets. DeAndre Swift is splitting in the backfield. Marvin Jones, flat out sucks this year. I don't like Golladay. Allen in DFS, I am not playing Kenny Golladay anymore. I'm done. This team is not using him the way they should. They're not giving volume. Their offense is playing scared. Therefore, give me AJ. I think, to be honest, I think AJ Brown just dominates this Bengals game. Corey Davis is still involved, but I don't think that's going to hurt his value by any means. I think Tennessee, it's a new approach, and I think that Corey Davis now, because everybody fears A.J. Brown, Corey Davis literally has to run 2 routes, and that's it. So, yeah. And then obviously Tampa against the Giants. Look, this is, Alan, I know you're going to come in quiet. I think the only time we're going to hear you start shit talk is to get it out of the way once Robbie Anderson goes off, right? Alan, sorry, brother. It's tough. It's a tough year, man, and you get Harsh at the hottest peak possible, bro. Because again, Harsh, if this team stays healthy, if this team is to stay healthy, I love your chances, bro. So, Alan, I apologize, man, but Harsh is cooking. Let's go into this one, Battle of the Rookies. I got to be honest, and I had mentioned it in the first segment, man. Patrick, man, you're fighting, man, and you're doing everything right. And I know you're in a very competitive division because you have Rob and Harsh's team, and now David is getting McCaffrey back. So, yeah, you might get the shit end of the stick in the long run, but I appreciate the competitiveness and what you're doing right now, man. You are not backing down, and you find ways to win. I think me and you are the only 3-4 teams, so that should be interesting if we get the chance to fight for a playoff spot. Who knows? Keeping our fingers crossed, but here we go. And Alex, man, I just think you've just caught a lot of bad breaks. Lamar, Josh Allen, I would easily say Lamar, but he has not looked really good this year. Pittsburgh played him well last year. Josh Allen against New England, though, like Josh Allen has come down to earth finally. My God. First 3 weeks of the season, 32 points, 42 points, 39 points. Then 29, 20, 19, 16. I think he needs a healthy John Brown to open up the offense, man. If John Brown is healthy, I like his chances against New England. I'll flat out say that, but I'll go with Lamar just because they've had 2 weeks to prepare. Amari Cooper, I hear that he might be on the trading block in real life. Darius Slayton, Mike Evans, Travis Fulgham. Mike Evans will feast for 1 more week. Chris Godwin is out. No Antonio Brown just yet. Travis Fulgham, Patrick, great bid. Great bid. Fulgham is looking like the real deal, man. The only thing that might be a little bit concerning, and I think because he's not a speedster, it doesn't affect him that much. I know Alshon Jeffrey can't stay on the field, but Jalen Reagor does come back, I think. For that being said, man, give me the two receivers with the better quarterbacks, which would obviously be Patrick's side. Devin Singletary is going to lose his role. Alvin Kamara, obviously a stud. David Johnson, again, this is very early in Wednesday, so we don't know who the RB2 is going to be. My guess is LaMichael Pirine, maybe. Josh Jacobs against Cleveland is a fantastic matchup. I think he might be on par with Kamara. He has 2 touchdown potential, but I don't know who your other running back is, so I can't call running backs. Hunter Henry and Hayden Hurst. I don't like Hayden Hurst, but he is on a team that could be trailing from behind. Hunter Henry's been a bust. Like, this guy has not returned value whatsoever, which is why I always wait on tight ends. I can't believe I'm saying this for the first time this year. Give me Hayden Hurst. Brandon Ayuk in a great spot. Jarvis Landry. Okay, Jarvis Landry now has to become the alpha. He's not an alpha receiver by any means, but this is the guy that Baker's had a lot of chemistry with. Take it for what it is, really. And Alex, I don't know what your flex is. I don't think you're keeping these guys in. Maybe you wanted to take a look at some stuff, but I don't know. Buffalo against New England could be good. Chicago has been solid, so I'll give you that. I don't know what Alex's roster is going to be like, but he doesn't have a healthy Nick Chubb. He's got David Johnson on a bye. So I got to go with that. Patrick. Okay, the third matchup that I want to detail. Now, obviously, Mr. B Magic, I know that your roster is not set. And if you're thinking that you're going to pull that Andre thing with me, you're not. So, I finally caught on to that. I don't know why. Like, it took me a while. I don't know if anybody else realized that, but I know your lineup is a little bit uncertain. I'll just detail stuff that's happening in mine. I won't go through your whole roster, but things I want to talk about that why you're probably considering, like why I think this lineup is empty in spots because you're having a tough decision to make, right? So tough decisions that you have to make. Cole Beasley's actually looked really nice. Like, he's looked very good with Josh Allen. Le'Veon Bell, is he going to be used at all? And he saw a little bit of action. Do they decide to use him? Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson is back. What's his role going to be? CeeDee Lamb. Do you really trust Ben DiNucci throwing the ball to him? I don't know. Aaron Jones, is this going to be another week where he's going to get, you have a lot of decisions to make, brother. So I don't know, man. You got to figure that one out. The other thing, too, I don't know about Sanders on COVID. I don't know if it's 2 weeks or a week when he has to come off. I lost sight of that. Anyway, when I detail it right. So you have Aaron Rodgers regardless if Aaron Jones doesn't come in. And if Aaron Rodgers, without Aaron Jones, I think they're going to throw a lot more. Minnesota is a garbage team. And I'm spot starting Derek Carr this week. Derek Carr's been okay, but I don't think he outscores Aaron Rodgers. I think the only way that happens is if Aaron Jones plays and he's healthy and they just run the ball, but it's highly unlikely that happens. Beast of a man in Keenan Allen, right? I don't know who your receiver 2 is going to be. That's to be determined. DJ Moore against the Falcons. DJ Moore, starting to put things together quite nicely. Hopefully that continues. Robbie Anderson and him are still the 1A, 1B in my personal opinion. T. Higgins, the reason why I bought him, obviously high talent. I just think that the Bengals are going to have to be throwing from behind. This could be a fun game, to be honest. So we'll see what happens there. Look, the good news for you, B-Magic, the great news, I should say, is even if Aaron Jones isn't there, you look at my running backs and you're going to say, whew, like, okay, I can kind of get away with Aaron Jones maybe again for another week because Justin Jackson and Josh Kelly ain't going to cut it. But that's all I have, man. It's tough. It's running back landscape. Rob Gronkowski, look, I can't believe I'm saying this. The guy looks great. It looks like vintage Gronk. I don't know what happened the first 2 weeks. But I picked up Harrison Bryant. Like I had Njoku last week, but it's clear that they want to move on from Njoku. So I'll roll out Harrison Bryant in a matchup against the Raiders. We'll see what happens there. I expect this Browns offense to kind of be very balanced now without Odell Beckham. Flexes are empty. Let me talk about Tyler Lockett and Robert Woods. My baby, Tyler Lockett. Right. He's been very notorious. Like he's a great receiver. I love the guy to death. He's been very notorious though for the games where he absolutely goes off. He is forgotten about the next week, so that's always in the back of my mind. It's a constant trend, right? My only reason why I'm not saying that this happens again though, right? In the back of my mind, they lost, they're pissed, and they don't have any running backs this week, so they might have to throw by default. But I think that DK Metcalf will have a great game. Robert Woods should be okay. This could be an interesting game, too. I'm against Tua. San Fran D against Seattle. Look, San Fran, they've picked it up, man. They've picked it up last few weeks. They go into Seattle. The good thing about the Niners playing the Seahawks is that the Seahawks don't have a running game, which means that they're going to have to drop back and pass, which bodes well for you, B-Magic, because then there's going to be a lot of pressure on Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is a stud, but he takes a lot of sacks because their offensive line isn't good. And then I get Kansas City against the Jets. Kansas City came through for me last week. Maybe I get lucky twice with and I use the word my in quotation marks, my New York Jets. Obvious guys that are playmakers that won't be playing on my side of the field would be Chase Edmonds and Kyler Murray. And I don't even know what to expect. You've got some decisions to make here, man. And it's going to be tough, man. Decisions, Sunday morning decisions, right? Does Aaron Jones play another week? LaFleur had said that he wants to hold him out because he's worried about losing him long term. That's the thing, right? This team is a good team. They're going to make a playoff run. Let me hold off on Aaron Jones. I think that's what happens. Interesting thing here, though, is he said he was confident on A.J. Dillon taking up a bigger role. He had 5 carries, didn't do anything with him, and it was all Jamal Williams from there. Who knows? I don't know what I'm going to be expecting to see from you. So, best of luck. There's a saying that goes like, I feel like every year there's a team that's just like getting the really bad shit end of the stick. And I thought it would be Krier, but then when I'm looking at it, it's like Krier, your team's the definition of boom or bust. 1 week, it's like, holy, whoa, like this team is awesome. Then the next week after that, it's like, well, what happened to this team, man? Like, what's going on? Wow. Talk about a Jekyll and Hyde effect. But your team is talented, though. And then you get a Big Face Coffey, man, who's trying to prove the Coffeegate guys wrong and whatnot. Oh. There's a new quarterback in charge for the Chargers. His name is Justin Herbert versus the GOAT Tom Brady. I'm going to go with Tom Brady in this one. I am not a hater on Justin Herbert at all. I love the guy. He looks phenomenal, really, especially because he doesn't have a run game. Something in the back of my mind tells me him going to Denver might be a trap game for the Chargers. Like, I can see this being a really ugly game. Like, you know, I don't think there's going to be a sense of urgency for him to like get in a shootout with Drew Lock. Denver, has a great pass rush, and if they don't have Bulaga and there's another offensive lineman who might be out again, this to me looks like a really ugly game. So I'm not saying he's going to be a bust, but I would temper an explosion game from him. I'll say 22 points. Tom Brady will get 30. So give me Brady. Allen Robinson in the concussion protocol. David Krier probably saying prayers every night, saying, like, I can't have this guy out. I can't have this guy out because he's against New Orleans, which is a great matchup. Calvin Ridley. Deontay Johnson. Juju already back in the starting lineup again. That's hilarious. Juju has the worst matchup with Marlon Humphrey, so I don't like that. Allen Robinson will feast against Lattimore. Calvin Ridley against Carolina should score at least a touchdown like he always does. And Deontay Johnson, I think, being on the perimeter will be fine. He has the best matchup. Give me sipping coffee. James Conner, JaMychal Hasty, Kareem Hunt, Ronald Jones. I am going to take the Krier side on this one. JaMychal Hasty, if you were to tell me right now as recording this that Tevin Coleman has been ruled inactive, I think JaMychal Hasty becomes a very, very good play. But I don't know that yet. James Conner might find the end zone. I know he might be matchup proof at this point, I think. But Ronald Jones and Kareem Hunt get like two of the worst like run defenses. So I got to go them. TJ Hawkinson, George Kittle. I got to go with Kittle. Hawkinson is just kind of like 5 targets and maybe a touchdown. Hollywood Higgins already getting the start is interesting. And there is an empty spot right here. I won't tell David Krier who you're going with, but it looks like it's Denzel Mims. Dalvin Cook, if he plays, you definitely need that. Tyler Boyd will eat up targets over the middle in that matchup. I'm actually going to go David Krier. Philadelphia against Dallas, nice pick, Krier. New Orleans against Chicago. I guess it's a decent matchup, right? Coffey, there's a lot of uncertainty with you. You don't have Will Fuller this week. Philip Lindsay is questionable. This would be a great matchup for Philip Lindsay, by the way. How good is Rashard Higgins? I just want to kind of touch on that in a minute. I think he's like a possession receiver. I think he's like he's in that Corey Davis tier. He's like a waiver wire ad that is like a last flex viable kind of guy. Boyd, I think, has a great game. Cook, if healthy. If Cook's not out, I think this evens the playing field a little bit, right? Because then you would have to kind of go James White. I have no idea who the hell you would go with, to be honest. All right, so that kind of settles it. Krier would really need his running backs to take off and smash spots. If Dalvin Cook plays, I think I'm going to have to go with David Krier on this one. If Dalvin Cook does not play, Coffey could sneak one in. I just don't like Juju. That's the thing. Oh, Allen Robinson. All right. So worst case scenario for David is Allen Robinson and Cook get ruled out. If you told me that those two factors were to happen, I'm going to have to see her on the Coffey side of things. So it's dependent on those two guys because health-wise, they're in great matchups, right? But, if you take those out of the equation, man, you're relying on, big games from Kittle, Ronald Jones, Kareem Hunt, Tyler Boyd, which could definitely happen, but I'll take the volume guaranteed with Coffey then. So if you promise me that A-Rob and Cook are out, are in, give me the David Krier team. If not, Rabbit Krier. All I have to say is don't let me down. Please. You want to prove to the world that this team was greater than your championship team last year. This is the one time I really need to believe that. Can you not let me down? I mean, I did you a big favor last week by somehow going off against Paul's team. You need to take care of this team for me, please. That's all I'm asking. It's all I'm asking is you pretty please, like, turn the favor. Please, Johnny. Johnny, I know you're dealing with some bullshit injuries, and I get it. And that doesn't bode well. And Dre, I don't know what the hell you're trying to do. If this is really your roster, or if you're finally realizing that David Montgomery sucks, because when I checked, it was a 120. You were actually the favorite, and I know how you feel. Like, oh, let me lower it down so Nick picks against me. Like, I'm not falling for this bullshit trap anymore. I'm not. So I'm just going to call it as is. Andre, I will say that you have exceeded my expectations from about 5 weeks ago. I will give you that. But I still don't trust a lot of the things that we have here, right? Carson Wentz against Dallas should be a good matchup. Like, how much are they going to throw? Ryan Tannehill, I'll go over Carson Wentz. I will. I like the matchup a lot for Tannehill. Wentz is fine, right? Wait, didn't he? No, wait a minute. Oh, wow, dude, he's really picked it up. Give me a draw, actually, here. Give me a draw. I changed my mind. Adam Thielen, Julian Edelman, Julio Jones, Nelson Aguilar. So honestly, I'm canceling out those two flexes, and I'll tell you why, because we need to touch on Nelson Aguilar. 12 points, 13 points, 19 points. Nelson Aguilar can't continue this. I think the hot streak ends here. And I actually believe that this is the Henry Ruggs breakout game, like huge breakout game, like 3 catches, 3 touchdowns, like that type of deep threat game. I'm not buying Aguilar, even though it is a good matchup and is like he's showing a good floor, right? Julio Jones is hurt yet again. Like, he's always going to be on the injury report. On a short week, I think he's used more as a decoy. Adam Thielen, Jair Alexander has become this alpha, right? This year, the only guy who's been giving him a lot of problems has been Adam Thielen, so I'm actually going to go Adam Thielen here. Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman is cuttable, Jay. You don't want to hear it, but he's cuttable. I think the only way he becomes not cuttable is if they make a trade for an alpha receiver and he goes back to being wide open in the slot. This guy is not rosterable by any means. This is where I'm going to need you to do your most damage, because I know you're dealing with a lot of injuries and a lot of uncertainties, right? So Derrick Henry and Darrell Henderson, Joe Mixon, and Todd Gurley. Well, since Malcolm Brown, I think we're going to follow this pattern now. Since Malcolm Brown scored touchdowns, means Darrell Henderson will score this week. Derrick Henry will get 38 fantasy points. Joe Mixon is not healthy. I doubt he plays, to be honest. God, this guy needs to stop. This Todd Gurley, like, oh my God. I can't believe this is happening. Like, I legit can't believe this is happening, man. Like, he's looked so bad, but he's getting touchdowns all the time. He even scores on accidental touchdowns. I love the Derrick Henry matchup. That alone, I think, cancels out both of Andre's backs. I don't know what his lineup would have to look like. David Montgomery. I think David Montgomery plays. So, and I don't like him at all. So I still go with the J lineup. Mark Andrews versus Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith has been very quiet the last 2 weeks. I think he scores a touchdown in this one. Andre, I'll give you that. I think it's time for Jonnu to kind of show why he was such a beast again. Mark Andrews. The one thing that's concerning about Mark Andrews is he lost his floor this year because of Lamar. He's touchdown or bust. Does he score a touchdown against Pittsburgh? Sure. Flexes. The best player in the flex matchup has to go to Melvin Gordon in a revenge game situation. Philip, Andre, man, you are so lucky. Every time Philip Lindsay looks like he's about to take over the job, he gets hurt all the time, thus making the leash a lot longer for Melvin Gordon. I don't hate Melvin Gordon. I've had him like pretty much almost every year that I've done fantasy football, right? But like, Lindsay is such a better runner than Melvin Gordon. It's ridiculous. Anyway, let's talk about Melvin Gordon. I think he's not a terrible play. I think, especially if Lindsley's out, he's going to get you at least 15 points. And I think that alone is going to be better than Johnny's flexes. But for whatever reason, why is T.Y. Hilton rostered? Dude's dust. Like, two guys that should not be rostered anymore are Julian Edelman and T.Y. Hilton. And yet they're starting against each other. It's not my team. It's not my team. I'm just shocked that both of you haven't learned your lesson yet. Johnny, I know your argument. Well, I don't have so and so. Odell Beckham is out. Antonio Brown did it. I'm not going to tell you who to start. It's not my job here. Dre, you know damn well I don't want to tell you who to start. Anyway, let's talk about Sterling Shepard. The only way he produces for you is in a garbage time rule. The Damian Harris trade, you're worried about, like, but like I don't want anything to do with any New England back. I know he gets the Jets, and I think that's why you traded. Like, that's a get right spot for him. So maybe you're looking for the week ahead. One thing I want to touch on really quickly is the whole Tua situation. Why I think Johnny has Gesicki on the bench. We don't know what. I, for one, think that this team is not fantasy viable with Tua. I think Tua just spreads out the ball. I think this is like, he doesn't strike me as a quarterback that falls in love with one receiver. Like, I think it's more probably like the Justin Herbert situation where I think it's literally one guy and everybody else is just kind of spread. I just don't know who the hell that guy's going to be. All right, I did my part. Time to pick a winner. Quarterbacks will cancel each other out. Obviously, Julio Jones has the better matchup. I don't think he's going to be that healthy. Aguilar's a flyer, I'll admit it, but I don't buy it. Where the game gets won here, I think, is in the trenches with those running backs. Like Henderson, I think, scores a touchdown. Derrick Henry. Oh, by the way, this is a hot take here. I know Darrell Henderson has looked great. You know I took the L on that. That's fine. I fully think now that you have Malcolm Brown, and I know as gross as this sounds, if Darrell Henderson actually was to get hurt, I think that would be better for you. I know you're saying to yourself, what? Listen to what I'm trying to say, right? Darrell Henderson is only being used as a running back, meaning that he's only touching the ball. He's not getting a lot of pass work. He's touchdown dependent. Malcolm Brown is already in the 2-minute drills, third down situations, and gets mixed in at the goal line. Malcolm Brown sucks. I say talent-wise, yeah, Darrell Henderson, a lot better. If Henderson ever went down now that you have Malcolm Brown, I think, has a better floor than Henderson, with sprinkled in, like, not a lot of upside, obviously, but I think on a week-to-week basis, you're a floor guy. I think that's what you want to happen. All right, well, let's scroll down here. Time for me to pick guys that make me nervous for Johnny losing. Melvin Gordon, especially if Lindsley is out. Jonnu Smith is very sneaky. He's very, very, very sneaky. But on the Johnny side of things, man, I think Derrick Henry goes off against the Cincinnati Bengals front. But I don't feel comfortable with anything else, man. So I'm in a really, really effed up spot here. The fact that Todd Gurley keeps scoring and it's against the Carolina Panthers. What did he do the last time? 23 points. Fuck. Johnny, I told you I needed you to come through. Please don't let me down.
Match
this is not reverse week. Friendship on the line. Not really, but that would be cool if I hyped it up like that. And you guys will be getting, since you are the matchup of the week, you will be getting up my matchup chart. I will break that down into 2 parts, though. So I'll do wide receiver matchups, and we'll clarify my predictions after that, right? So here we go. Light roast versus Fresh Prince of Hilaire. Light roast, man. David Sutton has been winning and winning and winning and winning and winning without Christian McCaffrey, which you love to see. Restructured his team a little bit as well. Traded for a lot more depth. And now I think he is suitable for, if an injury was to occur, just like Paul is pretty deep, I think that you are suitable for that. And maybe we get Christian McCaffrey back. Who knows? Mr. Paul Percall. In a trap game last week. I saw that coming. But man, oh man, that was something that I didn't expect. It could have been closer than expected. I think a lot of people could have probably predicted that. But if you were to tell me it would end up like that, yeah, I'm not buying that. Anyway, let's talk about these matchups. Two of the best in the game, Patrick Mahomes versus Russell Wilson. Mahomes against the Jets is scary. This is a scary thought. Russell Wilson versus San Fran. Russell Wilson's matchup proof. I'm going to go draw as much as I want to say Patty Mahomes going off, right? The fourth quarter, he could get pulled. You saw Chase Daniel get in last week. The Jets are not scoring any points, bro. Sorry. That's what I have to say, Mr. Poe. That's what I have to say, Mr. Poe. It's going to be a draw. AJ Green, Jamison Crowder, Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp. Or, before I even get to that, I want to do the receiver matchups. So let's go through these running backs, right? Oh, perfect. You guys have this all perfect set up, right? So Boston Scott will be benched if Christian McCaffrey comes back. I know that for a fact. Gio Bernard's going to get another workload. Gio Bernard, I was surprised that they gave him the bulk of the carries. I thought this guy was going to split him with some, what's his name? P. Ryan. But, yeah, it's weird. Boston Scott, it's against Dallas, though, so maybe he goes off. Clyde Edwards-Helaire will score against the Jets. That's fine. Myles Gaskin. Gaskin's just like one of these guys that, like, he's just a good floor running back, man. Like, he really is. He doesn't have any upside, though. Like, he's getting a lot of volume, though, and that's what you like to see. And I think with Tua, too, like, who knows what's going to happen with his backfield. It's something I'm intrigued in, right? I'm intrigued a little bit. Let's touch up on these guys, right? All right, let's take a look. Let me take a look. So, Patty Mahomes. Running back wise, I still got to go Paul. The only way I don't go Paul is if McCaffrey comes in, and then I'd probably swing to the David side of things, which kind of makes sense. Evan Ingram versus Travis Kelce. Kelce, I know you got pissed at last week. He'll make it up to you, Paul. He'll make it up to you. All right. All right, we're back. So I want to break down these cornerback matchups, these receiver matchups that you have going. Jamison Crowder, what do we have? Questionable. Go figure. Full disclosure here, I got rid of him. I knew I couldn't trade him to anybody else. I just got rid of him because I think that he's not part of their future plans. He might either get hurt the whole year or he gets traded to somewhere else where I don't think that volume is going to be apparent. AJ Green going against Tennessee, which I do like the matchup. Jamison Crowder, the only way he does well is if he suits up for this game and it's garbage time yet again for him, which would really piss off Paul. Cooper Kupp has the best matchup. He could go off. And I'll show you why based on this matchup chart. And then we have Stephon Diggs who gets Stephon Gilmore. So let me dictate. We'll go down. I'll go by team. All right, so we'll scroll down. First guy would come up, Stephon Diggs. It's saying that he has a -5% advantage against Stephon Gilmore. The lower the negative means the more neutral it'll probably be. If you take a look, Gilmore wants a 4.38, whereas Diggs, his speed is 4.46. So Gilmore is a lot faster, he's a lot quicker, and this is a game, it's a sense of urgency type of matchup. Gilmore might lock down Diggs. It's very possible that could happen. The other thing about Diggs is that he's not being used explosive down the field. He's more intermediate, minimal range of a fade type of guy. I think Brown and Gabe Davis are more the explosive guys. So I do agree with this being more so downplayed, neutral, or wherever you want to go with that. Let me go down to Cincinnati. AJ Green. So, first of all, I didn't even know Jonathan Joseph was on the Tennessee Titans at all. I had no idea. AJ Green against Malcolm Butler. This should be fine, but like, look at the way these guys line up. Like, Boyd's the only one who's in this permanent spot. AJ Green and T. Higgins, they maneuver and flip-flop. So they are saying, who lines up on the left side more? AJ Green by percentage-wise, but Malcolm Butler will see plenty of both. I think it's funny because you have AJ Green and Devontae Parker. They're pretty much the same thing right now. AJ Green doesn't have any more explosions, so he's, between the chains type of guy now, sits in the middle of zones. Parker's just hurt. That's the reason why I got rid of him. I just don't think it ends well for him this year. So AJ Green will get volume if I'm looking at his game log right now. 11 targets, 13 targets. Wow. So is he back? I just think he's like Devontae Parker. Like, I think he's, a teens type of guy. Like, there's no explosion for me to say like he can explode anymore, but it's encouraging, right? And Crowder and Green could wind up with like 30 targets. It's crazy. Who do you have? Other guy we want to talk about? Cooper Kupp and or I'm missing somebody else though too. Metcalf. Yeah, we have a lot of guys to talk about. So I'm just going to scroll down here. And I believe Kansas City. No, all right. So Cooper Kupp, Nick Needham, not a very good corner. If you look, Robert Woods would get Xavier Howard. Don't ask me how to. Josh Reynolds would get Byron Jones, which is interesting that they actually think Josh Reynolds has an advantage on this. I think it's more of the speed factor. Josh Reynolds isn't even that fast. I don't know where they're going with that. Thing that's interesting about the Rams, with the exception of Cooper Kupp, is that they move these guys all over the field, right? So 49% of the slot for Robert Woods, but he lines up more so on the right side of the field, which is where Xavier Howard likes to line up. But there's so much motion involved that I think that McVay does a great job of getting his guys involved all over the field. So, but Cooper Kupp is definitely the guy who will probably eat in this matchup. So I like that matchup on the Paul side of things. Scroll a little bit down. We'll go to Miami with Devontae Parker, who gets Darius Williams. Yeah, that's funny, right? So Jalen Ramsey has been shadowing a lot this year. If you notice, he's been in the slot more this year, which is not good for upcoming weeks if you have to go against Jalen Ramsey, because he's going to shadow, right? Funny thing is, owning Devontae Parker when I had him, David, Stephon Gilmore did not shadow him week one. He actually was on Preston Williams, and then Tre'Davious White actually shadowed Preston Williams. It's the weirdest thing, right? Because you would think that Devontae Parker would get the alpha treatment, but he didn't. And this is now another guy who we do fear in Jalen Ramsey. So it says he's on Isaiah Ford. That's not going to happen because these guys also, like, Jalen Ramsey can move anywhere in the field, which means that I think that he's probably most likely going to be on Devontae Parker. The only way I think he goes on Preston Williams is because maybe the coaching staff says, well, Parker has a hamstring injury. He can't go deep. Let's have him on Preston Williams. Based on your lineup construction right now, unless did I miss something? No, you have both Preston Williams and Devontae Parker. So it's going to be a coin flip. One of them can have a good game where I think the other one kind of gets shut down. Who that's going to be, I have no idea. And Parker, again, he had a groin and a hamstring injury. I had to cut bait. Great receiver, great talent, but I'm not big on that. Then Paul will go to this for you as soon as I can scroll down. I know this is a bit of a pain. Don't worry, I'm going to get your DK Metcalf hype in a second. All right. Sorry, I know I'm playing around with this. It's hard without a mouse. Here we go. All right. Seattle. DK Metcalf most certainly is probably going to get the Jason Verrett treatment, who's been amazing. Like we forgot about this guy. This guy was a 2-time Pro Bowler and would always get hurt on the Chargers. Last year, they bought him in. San Fran did, obviously, and didn't do anything. Lockett has the better matchup, but I want to say why this could be a DK Metcalf week. I'm going to pull up the stat right here. As soon as I find it. It's going to take some time. It's on my Twitter. I saved it. Just give me 1 second. All right, never mind. Oh, wait. I got it. Hold on. So it has to do with Tyler Lockett. And since 2019, when he was like the beast known as Tyler Lockett, not just Seattle slot receiver Tyler Lockett, the weeks where he goes off, this is what happens on the previous week. In 2019 against New Orleans, when he went in week 3, 11 for 154 and 1, which I remember that game very well. Week 4 against Arizona, he posted 4 for 51. That was it. Week 9 against Tampa Bay, 13 for 152 and 2 touchdowns. That game I remember. Still lost that game somehow. He then went to San Francisco the next week, and 3 for 26, no touchdowns. Week 15 against the Carolina Panthers, 8 catches, 120 yards, and 1 touchdown. Next week, Arizona, 1 catch for 12 yards, which is why I was shocked, because Lockett never had good games against Arizona until, for obvious reasons. Then let's go to week 3 of this year against Dallas, 9 for 103 touchdowns. And then the next week in week 4, 3 for 39, or 2 for 39, no touchdown against Miami. Which means this could be a DK Metcalf week, but I think it's going to be more so both. I think Metcalf outscores Lockett, but Lockett will be okay. But based on the matchup alone, they might have to rely on Lockett again, and they don't have any running backs. But I think even though that matchup that you're seeing is Jason Verrett, Metcalf is faster. But my only concern about drafting DK Metcalf this year was we wanted to give him the alpha treatment, right? But the only issue is he hasn't done very well against these elite corners. Last year, Jair Alexander shut him down. Patrick Peterson came back from the dead against him last week, man. Just locking him up all over the place. I'm not saying Verrett is like in that tier. He used to be. I don't know. They might do a lot more zone coverage, to be quite honest. But I think he can get the better of Jason Verrett. Which then leads me to pick who do I think is going to win. It's a lot tougher than I thought it would be. The Miami matchups alone I'm really, really concerned with on the David side of the ball. I didn't even touch about Scotty Miller. Sorry to do that. He'll be fine. And then the defenses I don't think matter that much. But I'm actually going to still just go Paul, man. This is like 2 weeks in a row. Like I think he's now due for an explosion week, especially being so pissed. It could definitely come in this week. So I got to go Paul.